Hello and welcome to another birthday episode of the Father and Son Pastime podcast. It's my dad / co-host's birthday. It's my dad. Kevin, what's going on?
Happy birthday to me. I appreciate it. It is my birthday, December 29th. I'm happy to be here, and one of the great things we do is do podcasts, so we thought we enlighten folks with a podcast.
It is also a New Year's edition of this podcast. I don't know if you'll be seeing this on New Year's, but if yours, welcome to 2025. Hopefully 2025 was better to you than 2024. But it's something we've never done here. It's my dad's birthday idea to do this, and it's a New Year's resolution podcast for each MLB team. Dad, would you like to tell the people more about this podcast?
Well, I had a thought that I thought it'd be kind of neat and funny and entertaining to go through the teams in Major League Baseball and give a nice resolution to what they like to accomplish in 2025. So you picture yourself, if you're one of the executives of these teams and you're sitting around the boardroom and you're saying, okay, what are we going to do to have our team be better in 2025? What are we going to do to maybe help the fans be more entertaining? What are we striving to do in 2025?
It is that time of year, folks. We have moved on from Christmas, and now people are asking us what are we going to do better? What are we going to do more of? Maybe what we'll do less of. We're certainly not going to do less podcast. But your team hopes to be better. Unless you're the White Sox or the Marlins, I think your team kind of hopes to be better than 2024. Now, a lot of these could be cop-outs. And we could say health, no injuries, more money for your team, that kind of stuff. But we're going to try to dive a little deeper. Some will be funny. I don't have a funny one for everyone, Dad, so hopefully we have a nice balance. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we're going to start the American League. And we'll kind of ping-pong back and forth. But yeah. Dad, what team would you like to start with? You want to start with the World Series losers or another team?
We'll start with the Yankees.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we move down the list. What I did was how they finished in the division. So I kind of went from first to fifth in the division. For the Yankees, I thought it'd be really good to hire a professional public relations firm to really get into the New York media and convince the people to forget about Soto and do feature stories on who's replaced Soto with Goldschmidt, Bellinger, Fried, etc. And just say, hey, even though the Mets have our star, we're still the New York Yankees, and these are our new stars, and get into a PR because the Mets are going to take full advantage of having Soto and doing their PR war in New York, which still has unbelievable media coverage for their teams. So for the Yankees to hire a professional firm to convince the fans that they haven't really lost Soto, they've gained 5 other players.
I think you went more serious than funny. Mine was funny. I said to sell all remaining Soto jerseys for anything they can.
I love it.
I also my serious one for them was that hope that good pitching beats good hitting, because their offense is significantly worse without Soto.
Yes.
But they have better pitching. Yeah. But okay. Dad, who's up next? The Orioles in that order then?
I have the Orioles.
Okay.
This one is pretty good if you kind of are familiar with the Orioles. Trying to convince the fan base to move past the Angelos era and sign a frontline pitcher or player for a multi-year deal. They've done one this offseason, and they lost 2 players, or will lose 2 players, to multi-year deals. Just trying to convince the fan base that the new front office is better than Angelos, who was, a penny pincher and never signed anybody for long-term contracts, as well as some of the star players like Gunnar and Adley and all those guys. So basically, trying to move past the Angelos era and convince people they're going to spend money.
My joke for them was decide where the hell that wall is going to be. Is it in? Is it out? What's going on? He's very confused. And I also had what my dad said a little bit about extending the core. I think that's more important as we look at 2025, because they've missed out on Burns. If you're seeing this podcast, you know that Burns is now a Diamondback of all people. I don't think they're going to re-sign Santander. And I don't think they're going to sign at least a front-end pitcher. Maybe they trade for one between here and spring training. But what they need to do in 2025 is extend some people, because if the Yankees got stuck with Soto jerseys, I would really hope that the Orioles don't get stuck with Rutschman and Gunnar and maybe Jackson Holiday jerseys too, that they can count on those people being there in the next decade. Or they're really going to miss a window. They're really going to miss a window.
Yeah, they probably have a 2-year window, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, all bets are off. So yeah, I'm with you that one. Yeah.
Third, Dad?
The Red Sox. I think the Red Sox are having a really good offseason, by the way. I think for the Red Sox, they need to get an extension for Craig Bigelow. Breslow, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
He's really made a great trade, signed a couple of free agents. He is, I think, a dynamic GM, and I'm thinking there's a couple jobs that probably be open at the end of this baseball year that he will be in the running for. So again, for the Red Sox, you have to extend his contract, keep him in Boston, and let him keep working the magic he's working.
We're similar here. My joke was Heim who, and I just said keep giving Breslow room to thrive. So sure, if that's extending him too, feel free. I don't want to give too much credit to Craig until it pays off, because if all these signings happen, and he signed a lot of injury-prone players, if we're being honest. So if Sandoval never pitches an inning, if Liam Hendricks comes back and he's not who he was or doesn't only do part-time, and Trevor Story gets injured again, I know that Story's not associated with Breslow, but like it's a great attempt, and I'm happy that they're as active as they are. But I also don't think they're done, and he's also one Tristan Casas move away from being disliked as well. So I will just say Heim who, and hopefully Breslow stays active, and we give him some time to explore to see if he's worth extending. I don't want to jump the gun on him yet.
He's one player away from being probably the favorites in that division. Brackman, if he gets him, I'm thinking they are now the favorites of the East. What do you think?
It's a very unproven pitching staff.
Yeah.
If it's healthy, again, we're not trying to do healthy resolutions here, but if you have a full year of Garrett Crochet, which has never really happened, I mean, last year was like 150 some innings. If Giolito comes back, and if you have some of these young kids that click as well, sure, you can make a great argument, but I don't know if it's going to happen that way. So I would say the Red Sox, it's not just a piece or two away, it's a year of stability away.
Fair.
So no, I will not be saying that they're going to win the division, even if they added Bregman or Arenado or anyone like that.
Okay.
But they're good. They're much better. They're more improved than last year.
Yeah, I like the guts.
Dad, I think Rays are next. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, well...
Or pick who you want. I don't care.
No, we'll go the Rays. I think this is kind of cute. I think they need to add a hurricane clause to their insurance policy. And then, that way they're insured next time a hurricane comes through there, so they're not playing in the minor league stadium. So for them to look at their insurance and add a hurricane /flood insurance provision to their homeowners policy.
I just went even simpler. I said a roof. That's their New Year's resolution, to get a roof, and also like an established stadium future. There's, I think, serious discussions that Tampa Bay is not going to stay in Tampa Bay. And yeah, I don't know. We have two major league teams playing in minor league parks. Either that's going to be for some fun home runs. And again, I think we saw Eloy Jimenez personally play in a minor league park. I would love to see him click in Tampa Bay and playing in, the Tarpons Field, and just hit 40 bombs because he's playing in a minor league park. Yeah. So maybe it comes to their advantage, but for real, they need both those things. Dad, the Blue Jays?
Blue Jays is trying to convince any free agent to come to Canada and play with Val Guerrero for 1 year. They are having a horrible offseason, and they are in the running with all these free agents and getting turned down by all these free agents. So for them, is trying to convince anyone to come to Canada.
Alicia's was funny. I didn't have anything funny for Toronto. Sorry, Blue Jays fans. I just had extend Bo and Vladdy. Or if not or, you got to get one of those people long term, or you're no better than some of these teams on this list who won't spend money. And I don't know, the fate of your franchise is a little in question if you can't retain either of those legacies. Does that mean the Guardians are first for you?
Sure.
Come the AL Central.
Yeah, I think for Cleveland, they got to at least add one power hitter to the lineup. and also get a larger rear view mirror because two teams are gaining on them quickly.
That's a good point, Dad. I like that. That's a good joke. Um, I said that ownership. I said there's two, maybe like two different resolutions here. Ownership's resolutions. They want more players in the last year of their contract so they can trade them. And I don't know if this is ownership as well. It could be maybe more of the front office, but to still be the cheapest team to make the playoffs. They're almost proud of that, and I don't get it. I openly don't get it. I would have kept the energy of Bo Naylor and not the 39-year-old
Yeah.
Carlos Santana.
Yeah, I didn't get that one either. And Jimenez, I didn't get that one either.
Yeah, let's trade away our Gold Glove second baseman.
Yeah, and then
Hey, Omar Vizquel's still out there, man. He's like 59.
yeah, I didn't get either one of those trades, especially the clubhouse part of it with Naylor. I mean, he was a big part of the clubhouse, but he's going to do well in his new city.
Dad, was the Royals next for you?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I would love for them to add another player to kind of like guard Bobby Witt in the lineup either before him or after him. And then, they demonstrated they had a lot of potential last year, but in the playoffs, teams were pitching around Witt to get that, against that happening this year. They got to get somebody before or after Bobby Witt because right now he is a star, but people are pitching around him.
Yeah. A lot of people's New Year's resolutions are to work out more, to run more. The Royals need to take that. They need to go. They just need to hit the gas pedal. They need to try harder. I've been really disappointed with their offseason so far.
They've made one move.
Their outfield's horrible. Like their outfield is shit, and they need some power hitter to get Bobby Witt more direct pitches and appearances and quality plate appearances. But I don't know. I just said Witt needs help. Didn't really have a funny one for this one. Tigers, Dad?
Wave Javi Baez, and you got to eat that contract. But also with that, bring back either Verlander or Scherzer for veteran leadership, and just something get the Detroit people back to say, hey, we got a proven Tiger to come back in their swan song and all that stuff. One of those two would be great additions, but to waive Javi as soon as possible.
I wrote for Baez to quit. And maybe, you can really, pressure someone to quit. You can make their life awful. You can make their locker room and, the other part of the clubhouse. I mean, just really bully him and see if that works. And then the series was decide on their youth-veteran ratio. Obviously, the youth got them to the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
But they haven't really done much in the world of bolstering their lineup. I did not like the Gleyber Torres signing, moving Colt Keith to first base and making Spencer Torkelson, a bench player. The guy hit almost 40 home runs in 2023.
Yeah, I didn't get that either.
So yeah, that was a little strange, and I'm actually really disappointed in this division as a whole. When you have the Guardians trading Jimenez, losing Naylor, losing a little bit of their identity, they traded some bullpen pieces away. One went to the Cubs, and the Royals and the Tigers have money. They both can severely outspend Cleveland, and they're not. So that was a little bit more frustration than resolution.
Golden opportunity.
Let's move on to the actually most frustrating team in that division, which is the Twins, Dad.
Probably the most disappointed fan base from last year. As they saw their team collapse. They again may have to deal, some of their pitching, some of their kind of good steady players they have, because without the TV contract, their revenue stinks. So they are in a financial pickle, and then to get out of that, they might have to trade some assets away to lower their payroll. And again, they're going to do that, and they're going to get even further down in the standings than they were. I think the fans are very pissed off about this team, this franchise that is really lost in space. And I just think that they need somebody take the wheel and go. But right now, they are in disarray.
I'm going to go one step further. I don't think any of that matters. I really don't think the TV contracts matters. I think you need to sell the team. I think you need new ownerships that are richer and willing to put more money into the team and not penny pinching. We don't have the TV contract, man. We can't go out and trade someone. In fact, we got to trade away somebody. It's awful. The fact that Carlos Correa, Buxton, Pablo Lopez are all in trade rumors this offseason, it's your cornerstone. It's your 3 stars. It's who you put on banners and you do bobblehead nights of. So I'm very disappointed in the Twins, and I hope the new ownership gives them a new direction and obviously more money.
Yeah.
Dad, let's round it out with the worst team in baseball back-to-back years. Going out on a limb here, people, the White Sox will be the worst team in baseball in 2025. Besides, hope. I mean, that's a resolution right there. Not be the worst, but
Well,
yeah.
you stole my sentence. Try to win more than 50 games.
Oh, wow.
And I think they just don't want to set another record for losses in one season. Probably the resolution is say, hey, if we can win 50 games, that's a pretty darn good year because they have zero talent, and whatever talent they have, they're going to trade.
I went the opposite direction, White Sox fans. I said the only thing that's interesting is if you do beat last year's loss record. So I think you should tank. I think you should be the first team in baseball that goes 0-162. I think you should not have any talent out there. If someone gets a hit, trade them. Someone gets a walk, trade them. And I think it would be hilarious to actually watch that happen. I'm on your side with Reinsdorf needs to sell the team. I'm on your side just like the Twins. They need a new ownership. So this is coming from a good place. A little bit of humor, sure. But I think if you truly tank, record proportions, beating your record from last year, setting new loss records for the most losses in each month, the longest losing streak, I think that is what gets you attention. Sure, for the wrong reasons, but no one else is watching your games. West
it is, my friend.
Astros?
I can do that. Astros need to have one more outfielder.
They've been saying that for 7 years.
Right, but they need to replace Kyle Tucker, which I really was surprised they traded Kyle, but I understand financially. But then Dana Brown, their GM, is trying to fill some holes along the way and, piecemeal a lineup and everything. But to trade Kyle Tucker, and let's say he signs a long-term deal with the Cubs, that trade, really looks good for the Cubs. But again, Dana said, hey, I think I'm in a financial pickle. I probably won't get anything for Kyle Tucker if we keep him. They got 3 decent players. So now he's out trying to fill the holes, and you got to give him some credit for trying to hustle to make a good lineup.
I didn't have any jokes for Houston. I just said return of the ALCS. You got to show the world that the ALCS still runs through Houston. Last year was rough. You had one of the worst starts in, I think, franchise history, let alone MLB, like April's. And then you made the playoffs, but you lost first round. So that 7-year run of the ALCS running through Houston stopped. The world now thinks you're beatable. Like, the world is like, all right, that's their time in the sun. Who else is going to take this AL crown? Yeah. So I think they need to get back there. To be fully honest, there's not a lot of AL teams that are going for it. And people might be trying to get fans, but they're not trying to win the World Series.
That's a good point.
Rangers have had some additions. Red Sox have had some additions. The Yankees have had some additions, but it kind of net neutral for me. No one in the Central is showing up. So, I mean, really, it's those 4 teams for me, Astros, Rangers, Red Sox, Yankees, in terms of who's showing up to try to win this. Yeah. But they need to do more.
And the big guys are slowly signing. So right now, the first top 10, probably the majority have signed. And also now they're going to second tier and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And again, it all revolves around money.
Yep. I think they'll make a mid-year trade, so maybe their resolution should just be, forget about the offseason, we lost Kyle Tucker, and focus on just trying to win enough games to be buyers come the trade deadline.
Yeah. I think Kyle's going to have a good year. I think Wrigley's going to be a nice park for him.
If he tears his UCL or ACL or anything like that the first week of
I'm
spring training.
I'm with you.
Dad, Rangers next?
A bounce-back year for Julio. I think.
Or Mariners, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mariners. Bounce back year for Julio and Randy. And I think they need to trade Castillo for some infield help. So to get a second baseman with a little speed and a little pop is essential for the Mariners. They need to fill that gap, and they have their strength is pitching. They may have to trade one of their pitchers for some infield help.
I had win 54% of their games, because that is the stupid mantra that the Mariners front office abides by. Not try to make the playoffs.
Last year they missed opportunity.
Hey man, we win 54% of our games. We'll do great. We'll hit this thing and this. No, I really hate how Seattle runs baseball. Not as much as Colorado. That's cool. It's all good. You're not the loathe of my MLB teams, but you should never say that. You should never say our goal is only to win 54%. You're not going to get investors. You're not going to get Michael Jordan type of players on your team. You're going to get people that are like, all right, man, it'd be nice to win,
86 games.
5 games this week, then 6 games the next week. That's what we do. I think it's laughable. So I guess if their resolution is still win 54% of their games, it's still their resolution.
Yeah.
Good luck, Mariners. I think you'll miss the playoffs again. Rangers, then?
Jocktober Peterson is their lucky charm, and they will get to the playoffs this year. So having Jocktober is going to be their little push to get over it, plus some health along the way. But I think from World Series champs to third place isn't where they want to go. They still need to add some pieces. They have some money. But again, if you're looking for a lucky charm, it's Jocktober.
I wrote sign every reliever. I mean, that's what they're doing this
They lost a
offseason.
lot.
Just anyone that has thrown the bullpen session, the Rangers are linked to. I know they're completely rebuilding their bullpen, basically. I don't know if doing that gets them to return to the playoffs. They're like a fringe team for me. And again, I think the Rangers-Astros will be who adds more at the deadline, who's willing to give up more.
That's a good one.
A's dad, surprisingly.
A sellout for opening day.
That's funny. That's fair, right? I hope they do. That'd be great. I had plenty. I actually had a lot of jokes on the A's, as I usually do. They're a big gamble. No. And then I went deep into that, but it didn't land with him that well. That was a pity laugh that my dad just gave me. No, you guys didn't laugh at home either. But like all their money they're spending on payroll, they have to hit that $100 million threshold. So just put it on yourselves to win a certain amount of games in Vegas. That's not a conflict of interest. But no, I think it's great that they have to spend such a high payroll this year. I think it actually works out because everyone's been talking that the teams that are in a minor league stadium this year have to pay more to convince a player to play there because of it's for pitchers. I mean, they're going to give up more home runs. They're going to give up more runs. For hitters, they're not going to have as much quality stuff in the clubhouse. They're not going to have these amenities. They're not going to have that.
Going back to Moneyball.
Just like Severino, you had to pay him more than anyone else just to get him.
Yeah.
So I just think that's kind of interesting that this was the year they had to spend $100 million on payroll. Well, what do you know? We have to throw an extra 5 at Severino. They're going to get there. But they are fielding, surprisingly, a competitive team that I do think is still better than the Angels.
Their farm system has really improved, and they have some talent coming up. So, yeah, I can see them moving up the ladder.
Yeah. Angels, Dad.
Trade Mike Trout to a contender.
I wrote, do anything to not lose to a team from a minor league ballpark. Like, don't be fifth, basically, but I said it funny.
Yeah.
And I also wrote, hope Rendon calls Javi Baez and quits together. So I'm glad that was funny.
Or they could do a podcast.
Yeah,
they got
about not playing well, about being one of the best baseball players for like 3 years.
That would be great.
Completely, yeah.
Can you imagine the phone calls?
Yeah.
You lousy son of a gun. That's pretty good.
You're lousy, good for nothing.
Yeah.
Dad, just as an aside, I wrote my ALCS and NLCS predictions after this as we transition into the NL. But I think the ALCS will be a 2003-2004 classic, Red Sox-Yankees.
You know what? I think so too.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and neither team's done. I mean, both teams have been super aggressive in this offseason. The Yankees had their money earmarked for Soto, didn't happen. But you got to give Cashin credit. He turned quickly and said, "Okay, I got to fill in the blanks." Yeah. So you got to give him a little credit. And then Craig, at the same time, he's done some great things and he's taken some gambles. But don't forget, he was a pitcher, so he's looking at the medical reports and all that stuff. If Walker Buehler is the pitcher that he was 3 years ago, he's got himself a hell of a find.
Yeah.
And he looked good in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I give him credit.
Let's transition to the National League, everyone. And with the National League, we're going to start with the Phillies, right, Dad?
Yes.
Okay.
They need to get 2 outfielders for their lineup. Time's running out, so the Phillies have to get very aggressive in getting 2 outfielders via trade or free agency because they're getting gobbled up because right now their outfield's a sham.
My joke for them was to not lose to the Mets. Like, I think the Mets winning this division is like a fear. Like, like Phillies Braves, you kind of expect like you might go mano a mano. That's kind of who for the past couple of years they've been competing against. Like realistically, the Phillies and the Braves, and the Phillies and the Braves and
Yeah.
the Phillies and the Phillies and the Braves. The Mets kind of have been, for the most part, a third place team in the NL East. Now I think it's that watch out for the Mets. Dad, the Mets are actually the Braves.
I had the Braves.
Okay, cool.
Acuna being comeback player of the year.
That'd be good. He's kind of in and out on that, basically.
Yeah.
I also had to not lose to the Mets. That's a little theme in the NL East. But I think, for real, it's to continue to be in the awards talk. If you look back in, like, the past 5 years, they've had an MVP or a Cy Young or a Rookie of the Year, or they've been runner-up in those categories. So it just seems the Braves continue to produce amazing quality star players. Michael Harris, too.
Yeah.
A rebirth of Chris Sale. Acuna, obviously. Spencer Strider.
Yeah.
So I know the Phillies and the Braves are both struggling. I'm kind of looking at these teams similarly, that they are at a impasse with financial crisis and all that stuff. It's just kind of interesting to see that basically enemy of my enemy is my friend, and I just kind of see like the Phillies and the Braves collaborating to try to take down the Mets at some point.
That's right. Strength in numbers.
Right, yeah. Well, let's talk about the Mets, Dad.
Juan Soto, Juan Soto, Juan Soto.
Is that a resolution?
No, that is a fact. But you know what's so funny is they still need to acquire some people to get that lineup better. Soto is a huge part of that, but they still need a third baseman. They probably still need some, pitchers as well. Because right now, a team could probably pitch around Soto, and in that lineup is not the greatest thing. So they still need to add some pieces to make them truly a star-studded team. I know they blew a lot of money on Soto for God knows how many years, but at the same time, if you look at their 1 through 9 lineup, they need some help.
I wrote offer payment plans on Soto jerseys. It's only fair, people. If you're, offering this amount of money, God only knows what the Soto jerseys are going to go for. So whether it's layaway, whether it's a down, payment, you got to take a deposit.
Get half now, half later. 1, 2 at a time.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some deals. Buy 5, get the 6 free. But really, that the most expensive player in baseball history is worth it. Sports history, really.
Yeah.
I hope it pays out for you that there's no injuries, that he is the guy for you for 13 years. But I would love to see you're going to see Soto jerseys. Everything is going to be Soto this year. There'll be bobbleheads, there'll be hats, there'll be everything you can imagine. They're going to Soto is going to be the Mets face of the franchise, possibly forever. Like if there's a Rushmore with Seaver or Keith, like Keith Hernandez or something like that. But like if he's up there, I just think he's going to be the Rushmore of the Mets, if not the face of the entire franchise by the time he retires.
Yeah. But at the same time, they need some people in that lineup to make it strong. I don't think they're done yet, but we'll see what kind of money they have left.
Yeah. Still coming.
Yeah, I know.
Dad, the Nats.
They still need to add some veteran players. The Nationals might creep up on people. I'm telling you, folks, they got a really nice young lineup. But in there, they need some veterans to help the players get used to a pennant race and everything else. But right now, I think they're one of the dark horses to look for, creeping up in the standings. Really tough division. But again, some veteran players will help that clubhouse.
I wrote to establish a gambling policy for their players. Seems to be C.J. Abrams is unaware of that policy. C.J. Abrams, for the people that don't know, last time I checked, is not listed on Roster Resource and is not listed on the MLB Depth Charts website. So, things could have changed since I've checked that and you watched this video, so keep that in mind. I would have traded him already. I would have gone out and got Ha-Sung Kim or Willie Adames or something like that and just let him go. He seems to be trouble. David Martinez runs a pretty tight ship as far as I know and is like quick to anger, which is sometimes beloved and sometimes comical. But yeah, I think that trading C.J. Abrams should be on your resolution list.
But the funny thing about that whole situation was he came in a clubhouse and admitted where he was and what he was doing.
Yeah.
He's like, well, what's the big deal?
I mean, I think Wander Franco kind of did too on like an Instagram live thing. So I mean, not the smartest shortstops.
Yeah.
Dad, the Marlins round out the NL East. I have a funny one, but go ahead.
You know what? It's hard to believe they were in the playoffs 2 years ago.
Did they beat the Cubs?
They did. They edged them out and everything else. That the Diamondbacks edged them out as well. But for the Marlins, is like they need to put a for sale sign up and move. Because right now the interest in South Florida is next to nothing, and they're a fledgling team that really needs to move somewhere because right now they're not going to make it South Florida.
Same ilk. I wrote that for people to remember that there's a Major League Baseball team in Miami, because it doesn't seem to be highlighted. You talk about it, inner Miami, and you talk about the Heat. I mean, really, the Marlins are like the fifth, sixth, maybe even seventh thing you talk about as an attraction when you talk to Miami. I know you have to compete with the beach and blah 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 blah, but it doesn't see. It just feels like a minor league attraction versus a major attraction.
Yeah. And they don't do anything to maintain their success. As soon as they get some success, they tear it down.
97 and 2003.
Yeah.
I dropped back into the Red Sox.
I don't understand that. So that's what's, again, even that the young GM that was there, Jeter left. There seems to be some kind of problem in the front office that the really talented people go in there and they leave. Mm-hmm. Not a good sign.
Let's tank. Dad, I want to go first on the Brewers, if that's okay.
Sure.
This is my dad's division, if you don't know. So the Brewers are going to go first. So their resolution is to somehow beat the Cubs with less money and less talent again. That again was just for you. Dad, what's your Brewers resolution?
They always seem to win. You got to credit Pat Murphy for having a great year managing that team and all that stuff. Somehow, some way, still have smoke and mirrors on everything they do to stay in the competition of that division. But I think, again, they're going to need some magic to stay in the top three of that division because they're lost, two good players already. I can't see them holding on to that division lead, but by somehow, some way, they do. But, yeah, they need some magic.
Dad, what's your Cubs resolution?
That one, Rookie of the Year for Matt Shaw.
Let's see if he takes a bet come March, guys.
Okay. Extension for Jed because he's in his last year. His hands are tied by Tom Ricketts, the frugal owner of the Cubs. But I think overall, Jed's done a good job. He's got some young talent coming up. I think Matt Shaw will have an incredible year, and he'll be the Rookie of the Year.
I wrote to actually go for it. I don't think I've seen the Cubs commit to like a trade deadline motive in the past couple of years. It seems to be like a buy and
very
sell,
passive.
which is the Red Sox too. I mean, I'm not just singling out the Cubs. A lot of organizations do something I think is pretty dumb. So I want them to go for it. Like I really do want them to be competitive, push the chips in, trade whoever you can. Because I think if you don't and you miss the playoffs again, I think everyone's gone.
I agree.
It's not just the front office. It's every remote play, like Michael Bush type of people. Who would want Dansby Swanson? Who wants Ian Happ? And they just completely rebuild, and they are just as bad as, we'll get to them, the Cardinals for the next couple of years, which is a very weird thing for that division.
I think you're right on.
Yeah.
And Jed, I think, knows that his job is,
It should be.
Well, he is.
Yeah.
And if, I think that's why he pulled the trigger on Kyle and, get him. And that's their star that they've been looking for the longest time. So they finally have a star, third, fourth hitter. So now they got to fill in some blanks. They do some bullpen pieces. They have more resources than anybody else in the division, but they act like they don't. And that's what the Cubs fans can't stand, is you're a wealthy, wealthy owner. Spend some money.
Did I have a funny one for the Cardinals?
Sure.
I have rebuild the nest.
Good one.
I think you really need to commit to a rebuild. I don't know why they're not. It's clearly they're doing it, but I don't know why they haven't outright come out as a team and said it. They're being very passive. Arenado's been in 2 trades, and then I believe one he rejected once it was near the end because that was the Houston trade, and one he rejected to New York really quickly when Marcus Stroman got involved. So obviously they're trying to trade one of the best third basemen ever played the game, and then there's a recent rumor that like their whole rotation's up, like Fetty and Motts and Mikolas and Liberatore even. So I just am kind of curious. Just commit. Just say we're tearing it down. We know we're gonna be bad for a while. Give us calls. They didn't do anything at the winter meetings. Like they didn't. Who do they talk to? You, hey man, do you want Arenado? Do you want him? All right, well, here's a no trade clause. Like what's that? Why would you? Why would your first principal thing moving someone with a no trade clause? Trade everyone else and show Arenado we're gonna lose.
Yeah.
So now you should definitely waive your no trade clause. Not hey, remember this team that's you lost your friend Paul Goldschmidt, but kind of the team is pretty similar from last year. So I don't know. I think they just have really gone horribly with this offseason.
It's funny. You're making great points, by the way. The funny thing about it is towards the end of the year, the GM said they're going to build up the farm system. And he was, make a public statement like, hey, our farm system sucks. We really need to get ourselves back and build a farm system so we don't have to rely on free agency and all that stuff. They have a really good shortstop. And I don't know if people have seen Mason Wynn play. That could be the corner piece of the new Cardinals coming up. But again, the resolution might be asking the Cardinal fans, hey, some patience. We're not going to be really good for a couple of years. We're going to be towards the bottom of the division because other teams are going to, leapfrog us. So please, you're great Cardinal fans, loyal fans, and all that, but they're not going to be good for a while. But again, you're so right. Make that statement saying this is this is the plan, and let you be in on the plan.
I don't know if Cardinal fans let us know if they do this, but there's a lot of early January conventions for teams and fan fests and fanfare and that kind of stuff. It almost seems like manipulative if you're keeping players that you're going to trade come February, or that you're going to trade maybe even in March. Just to get one more Arenado wave, we're going to trade you tomorrow after the Cards Fest or whatever it's called. I don't know if that even happens, but it just seems that's like the only thing you could be waiting for. You have like Ryan Helsley too. Like there's so many trade pieces. The Yankees traded in your division to get Devin Williams. I'm sure they offered you the same thing for Ryan Helsley.
If you want to build your farm system, do it.
Right.
But don't just sit there idly.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Reds or Pirates next?
You pick.
Reds. I don't have a good one. I don't have anything funny. I just have to make the playoffs. They have too much talent to not make the playoffs.
You know what? We've been right on as we've gone through these teams. Another team with vast potential, kind of like great athletes. They need pitching. They need some bench players. They probably could use some power hitters with that ballpark. But again, last year they kind of like faded, and part of the reasons was they didn't get enough home runs and enough power, and they lost a lot of games 5-4, 5-3, that kind of stuff. They need more punch and get players in there that suit that ballpark.
I think they need, just looking in the moment, looking at this team, they need leadership. Votto's been gone. They traded Jonathan India. I don't think Ellie De La Cruz is a leader yet. I don't think Hunter Green's a leader yet. So I hope that they find leadership. Yeah. And maybe that is that extra offense.
Yeah.
The Pirates, I have a good joke here. I had spent a lot of time in the NL Central.
Go for it.
Find that Skeens card. I mean, seriously, like if
who has it? Who has it?
And this is both a joke and serious. You don't want your fans on opening day talking about a baseball card and not the team. You really don't. You don't want this Willy Wonka golden ticket thing where people are at hobby stores
really good.
tearing into baseball card packs than at your stadium. It's been fun. There's been obviously a lot of fanfare with it. I'm sure more people got back into collecting cards because of it. We took a shot at it. We didn't get it either.
Yeah.
So that's all beneficial. But if this kind of drags out, which it very well could, I don't know. But that was just my little joke about the Pirates.
No, that was a good one. I love it. Let's face it. In the National League Central, the Reds and the Pirates are probably the most athletic teams in the National League. I'm talking about speed and defense and, just all that kind of stuff. The Pirates have an entertaining team. I think their resolutions is hopefully people in Pittsburgh will give them a chance. They support all these other teams in Pittsburgh, but they don't support the Pirates. But if they could only do more education on like, hey, you want a speedy guy that can go first to third in so many seconds, this is your team to do that. I just think that and it's probably one of the top three stadiums in that Major League Baseball. They need to do much more awareness of the people in the western part of Pennsylvania that this is a cool place to go, support the team, and go from there. They have a chance to be first or second in that division.
They got to add. They got to add. But, I mean, you're right that if the Cardinals are going down, especially, by the way, if the Cubs don't make it and they end up selling. Like, if they have a horrible beginning of the year and they're, like, I don't know, 10 games under 500 at the deadline, yep, they definitely do. But if the Cubs push, I imagine the Reds will push a little bit. I don't see playoffs just yet for the Pirates. I think they still need to.
The first half will dictate. They always do well in the first half.
Yeah.
Second half, they always start to fade. They don't add anything at the deadline to make them push.
A full year of Skeens would be great for that team.
Yeah, and they got a couple other guys too.
Yeah.
Their pitching staff is pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy named Bubba coming up.
Bubba?
Yeah, he was a pitcher. And
my resolution is find out more about this guy named Bubba. My personal one.
I think it's Thompson. Oh, I forget what it is, but he's up and coming.
Dad, let's move on to our final division, the NL West. Besides, obviously, winning it, not maybe just winning the World Series. I mean, the Dodgers have so many lofty goals. It's going to be win the NL West again, win the pennant, be the number one seed in the playoffs, probably go to the World Series, if not win it. Like, these are, like, expectations, not resolutions. So what the hell could their resolution be?
Well, they have to buy more trophy cases, so they have a dynasty happening. So I would get a hold of a carpenter and say, "Hey, we probably need something 12 feet by 12 feet for the trophies coming our way." So again, they need to hire some carpenters to build more trophy cases.
We're very complimentary in our resolutions. I said to set a record for most MVPs and Cy Youngs on one team. So again,
and Otani's pitching this year.
I don't know if he's ever a Cy Young level pitcher, but he's great. The fact that he can do both at any thing is amazing to me. But yeah, he's got to be the odds-on favorite to win MVP already.
Yeah, more trophies.
Dad, are we at the Padres next?
We are the Padres.
Okay.
I say get a great return on Dylan Cease. Apparently, they need some, maneuvering to get some payroll, to get them under the cap a little bit. So right now is get a great return for Dylan Cease, Red Sox, other teams that might be in a running. That helps with their payroll constraints because right now I'm not sure how much more they can add without getting into the penalty. So right now they're in a little bit of a pickle with money. They need to trade a star player. Cease would bring the most in return.
I don't think the Red Sox are going to go for any more starters. I think he's an Oriole. I think if the Orioles like going for his 1 year left of their contract, man.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And who knows, like if they match up, how they match up. My joke was to teach Jackson Merrill every position. He's went from shortstop to center fielder, all-star center fielder. And I don't know. I just think that he is. That team is 7-8 shortstops. It'll stay 7-8 shortstops.
It's a softball team.
That's different, man. And they should really re-sign Jurickson Profar.
Yeah, that would be good, but there's other teams that are right in on him, so we'll see what happens.
Dad, I got a fresh one for the Diamondbacks.
Sure.
Like 24 hours old. That I hope Burns is more like Randy than Madison.
Pretty good.
They've had...
Pretty good.
Obviously, I know they're lefties and Corbin's a righty, but they've had... And they've gotten an ace, right? They either went out and they signed or they traded for the ace level. Is it Randy Johnson? Is it that franchise icon, the first person you think of when you think of a Snakes jersey? Or do you think of a back half of a career of Madison Bumgarner, a World Series legend for the Giants, to a kind of forgotten / borderline hated person in Arizona? And I think he'll fall somewhere in between. I think Burns is more going to be like a Schilling. So
that is very, very good. You know what? I love what they're doing. You got to give them credit for really surprising the whole world and signing Burns and everything. But again, last year, if you really read a lot about that team, they didn't have a whole lot of spirit.
Yeah.
They seemed to not, the clubhouse wasn't really great and all that stuff. I think to reconstruct the clubhouse, Naylor could be a huge part of that, by the way. and then all of a sudden to get together and then they can push and they will give Dodgers a run for the money because right now I don't think they're done, but boy, they've added some nice pieces.
I mean, like you said, they're trying to compete with the Dodgers. I mean, you get Blake Snell or Corbin Burns. For me, give me Blake Snell. And plus, that's just one person in your depth. I mean, yes, the Diamondbacks are going to be a fun team, and I think will compete for a wild card spot. I don't know if they'll land it. You know, they were just like, what, a game shy this year. The NL is better than the AL. I mean, you move the Diamondbacks or the Padres to the AL Central. I mean, damn, just to run away.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Or the NL Central for that matter.
Yeah.
Both these teams are better than the Brewers. But yeah, so I'm curious to see how Burns does, and obviously it goes without saying, trade Jordan Montgomery so your owner or GM or whoever made those comments will be happy.
Yeah, and I'm thinking they might have to give him away.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Dad, the Giants.
If you want to go first,
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
This is not a joke, so Giant fans, you can be offended. Stop trying to compete with LA. In all aspects. Stop trying to compete with their city. Stop trying to compete with their teams. You're different, and that's okay. But if you always view yourself as competition to Los Angeles, you're always going to come up second. So just be who you are. Compete in McCovey Cove. Get some splash hits. Make a good product for your fans.
Great ballpark.
But you're right. Stop trying to compete with a salary that you can't compete with MVPs you just can't compete with, because you're going to lose if that's who you view as your rival. Honestly, challenge the Padres or challenge the Diamondbacks. I really think it's more Dodgers-Padres anyways now. And just try to... That's your rival. That's who you want to be. You don't want to be fourth in this division. You want to be third. So it's not funny. It's just I hope that the resolution is less competition with LA.
It goes back to New York, by the way.
I'm sure it does.
I have it. Get some help from the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce on the image of the city, because all these ball players are saying because of the city's blight and how the city is not the beautiful city it once was, and a lot of people are going down and saying, hey, they're moving out of the city and all that stuff. At one point, San Francisco is one of the better cities in America. They need some help on image, especially within Major League ball players, because they don't want any part of that city. They need to, not only build a team, but build their image.
Sounds like PR is a couple of your
yes.
resolutions.
Yes.
Dad, I will end with the Rockies. Obviously, they're the dead last team. Hate them forever. Will hate them. My resolution will hopefully speak to the Rocky front office directly, that you should extend the players that you should trade, and trade the players you should have extended.
That's a good one. I like it. Well said. New owner. A guy named Dick Montfort is the owner of the Rockies. He meddles in everything they do. He has a horrible perception on who's good and who's bad, but apparently nothing gets done without his okay. Doesn't ever work in pro sports. They do have an outfielder that is probably the most underrated outfielder in the major leagues, named Brenton Doyle. Last year he had 19 defensive runs saved. And believe it or not, Colorado drew 2.6 million fans last year for a team that's really pathetic. Mm-hmm. The community's trying to support you.
Chicago with Cubs, Dad.
You're correct.
St. Louis with the Cardinals.
Yeah, you're correct. But you have to get rid of the owner. Get somebody go and buy it because it's in a great part of the country. But again, over time, they're getting some good people coming up in the farm system. This guy Doyle, if you see him play, it's amazing the ground he can cover in center field. But again, they just blow it every time. They just get rid of the players that really should have futures and sign guys like Chris Bryant for a contract that just hang over their heads for 7 or 8 years. They make some bad decisions.
Just to end it, my NLCS prediction as of the end of 2024 is Dodgers-Phillies. So we kind of have 4 big teams in the CSs. But who knows what's going to happen between now and opening day or at the trade deadline. You never know. I certainly did enjoy Dodgers-Yankees. Game 5, baby. Just a shot at the Yankee fans. I still love you. I appreciate your views. Dad, to conclude, do you have anything left to say about your resolutions?
No,
anything?
this was a ball doing it, by the way.
Well, it's your birthday.
That's true. But I tell you, this was great. I would love to have people's opinion and our opinions. So see what, or send us your.
So what a podcast is.
Yeah, or send us your resolutions for the coming year and all that stuff. I hope everybody has a great 2025.
And because it is your birthday and because it's New Year's, I thought it'd be fitting we'd pop off one of these. I don't know how loud it'll be on your end. So let me say everything first. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. We're the Father and Son Pastime Podcast on both of those platforms. And at Pastime Podcast _ on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe, like, comment.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year and happy birthday to my dad.
Thank you.